All right. This is going to be our December 8th, 2021 morning call. I'm streaming on YouTube, by the way, for you guys on Discord. If you guys go to the stream alerts, you can go ahead and grab my link for YouTube if you want to watch the stream. Let's get started. So first off with ES, a little bit of weakness here, a little top doji on the start of the day. We do have a big resistance around 47.18. That would be the retrace of the entire sell-off candle. If we can hold above that, your obvious target would be the all-time high around 47.40. Break above that, you should be able to get around 47.60, so it'd be about a 2-point gain on SPY. If you do fail before reclaiming that 47.18, it's probably going to come back down to that 4664, which is that 618 of that first dead cat bounce candle, that first sell-off candle. That is the invalidation line for the dead cat bounce. So right now, the dead cat is being invalidated. But if we pull back to use it as support, it should look for a nice little bounce into like 47.18. Below that 6.4 level, look for 4.631, which is the 382. And then if we get below that, it's probably going to come back down to this little resistance, which is now support around 4,600. So the main levels for today are that 4.664 and that 47.18. If we look at the pre-market VWAP, it would be right around 46.96. So if we can reclaim that, we should be decently bullish on the day. But the pre-market has been pretty sideways today, so I wouldn't be overly bullish if we do bounce above that VWAP. But if we do put a higher low above that level, then it will look pretty good. Let's move on to NASDAQ. So NASDAQ here, if it fails the 6433 level, which it currently is, that is the original sell-off candle from the pullback. If you can't get above that, probably going to pull back to this 210 or 157 level, which if you guys are Qs traders, that would be a sell-off of about 0.67% and 1%. Below that, look for 987 and 929. That would be the bottom of that first sell-off. For Qs, that would be about 2% and 2.4. If we can get above that 433, you're looking for 660. For Qs traders, that would be about 1.7% away. If we look at the pre-market VWAP, it's right around 372. It is a little bit more bearish than ES. You can see how we're pretty much sideways, same thing here. But we put in a couple of lower highs here on the failure. So unless we can reclaim VWAP, this might be a little bearish day. If we look at yesterday, we do have VWAP support around that 6212 level, which would be a little bit of a sell-off. Let's take a look. That'd be about a 0.68% sell-off from where we are currently. So keep an eye on Qs, looking a little bit weaker than ES. All right, let's move on to Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then we will get started with the news. If you guys are listening on Discord, I am streaming on YouTube. If you want a smoother stream, let's go to the Stream Alerts channel and you can see my YouTube stream. All right, let's move on. So Bitcoin here. As I said in Discord yesterday, below this pivot is pretty weak. So unless you can reclaim that 52.7, your bearish target would be this retrace of the wick around 45,700. You have a little bit of support coming in on this anchored VWAP around 48,732. If you can't hold this VWAP, you're targeting that wick retest. If you can hold the VWAP, you're still targeting that pivot. So you're kind of stuck between these two levels here, creating somewhat of a bear flag. If you get above the pivot, you're looking for the OTS trail and the POC of that distribution from way back here, around 55,800. Let's move on to Ethereum. Ethereum is kind of stuck in a range here. You have the range high, which created a deviation here and a deviation here. This is also the OTS trail, giving you a little sell signal. If you can get above the range high, get above this OTS trail around 4440. You want to look for around 4600, and then probably an all-time high around 4800. If you continue to fail the 50-day and the OTS trail here, most likely going to go down to like 4150. And then you have those double pivots around 4,000. Okay. If you break 4,000, then most likely going to go back down to that weekly pivot, which we tested way back here around 3,500. All right, let's take a look at some news, see what's going on today. I'll pull up ES while we're doing that. If you guys want to follow along with the headlines, I did post them in Discord in the archive channel. But all right, let's get started. So first headline, the preliminary data for the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine showed that a third dose could still offer a sufficient level of protection against the Omicron variant, and 2 doses may still induce protection against this severe disease. So this is kind of coming out after they already said that they didn't think their vaccines were going to be very strong against the new variant. But I'm guessing it's a play to get people to get their boosters, obviously increase the company's revenue. But whatever they say, right? So if they say it's good news for the market. It seemed like the market was reacting kind of bullishly to that news, but now we're kind of selling off. So it doesn't seem like the market really cares. I think the market honestly knows at this point that any news out of Pfizer or Moderna is pretty much just bullshit. They're just saying whatever they have to increase their profits, which every company will pretty much do, right? So next up, we have other supportive news includes the House passing a procedural bill to start the process for increasing the debt ceiling. So we should have a debt ceiling raise before the December 15th deadline. Next up, we have investors will receive the JOLTS job opening report at 10 o'clock. So after the morning call, we should get a report around 10 o'clock for October. And they also released the weekly MBA mortgage application, which increased 2% following a 7.2% decline last week. That was pretty good. Next up, we have Southwest Air, LUV is the ticker. They're up a little bit pre-market after raising their Q4 revenue guidance. The company observed strong leisure travel demand over Thanksgiving and said their leisure bookings continue to be above their expectations. Let's take a look at their chart. Looks like they tried to push up on that news pre-market, but they're selling off a little bit. So pretty much right where they closed. Let's see. Yeah, you're up about 10 cents. So the airlines are kind of in a hard spot here. You have a bunch of random news coming out with new variants and the vaccines being good or bad with the new variants. So the airlines are a very hard bet moving forward, as they've been basically throughout the entire COVID crisis. It does look like a lot of them are trying to bounce on support, but unless you're willing to take drawdown and you're willing to dollar cost average for probably another 10 to 15% drop, I would not be investing very heavily in these airlines. All right, next up we have Stitch Fix. They're down massively on pre-market after guiding fiscal Q2 revenue below consensus, overshadowing its better than expected results for their fiscal Q1. They were down about 24% at the time of writing this. So let's take a look. They are down to around $18.40 a share, closing at 25. So massive nuke here, around 27%. It is approaching their all-time low, so there is a decent amount of support coming in around this $13 to $15 area. So keep an eye on that. You could get a little bit of support on that all-time low. If not, probably going to nuke pretty hard, maybe down to like $8. Not something I'm too interested in. Next up, we have Dave & Buster's, ticker is PLAY. They beat their earnings by 0.04 a share, and they report revenue that was in line. So let's take a look. They are up a little bit pre-market, 34.60, closing at 33.10. Yeah, so the revenue is just about even, and they beat earnings. Pretty good. This could be a sloppy bulldog. Support, curved back, support. If we do pop up here, maybe find some resistance around that 39 mark, we could start to climb back into like 45. Got to watch out for that pivot around 41. But as of right now, there's not a whole lot to go off of unless you want to buy that double bottom. You do have a ton of support here around the 200, the pivot, the 50. So until we reclaim like 37.50, that wouldn't be too bullish. All right, moving on. Next up we have judge blocked the President Biden's vaccine mandate for federal contractors. So pretty much almost every single mandate that he has put forward has been blocked by one judge or another. The only mandate that remains is the one for actual federal workers. So people who work for the state government or the federal government, they still have that mandate in place. But pretty much every other mandate, the mandate for the healthcare workers, the mandate for the contractors, the mandate for the teachers, all those mandates have been blocked by one judge or another. So that's interesting to keep an eye on. Next up, we have Senator John Tester and Joe Manchin will join Republicans in voting to nullify the White House's vaccination mandate for larger companies. So there again, we have another mandate being blocked one way or another. So that one has not been blocked just yet. I think that is the one that they were saying if you have over, what was it, like 100 or 200 employees, you had to mandate vaccines. This is even in the private sector. That one is being fought in Congress, and I think it's already been blocked by a judge. Next up, we have Acacia Research approved their stock repurchase program, authorizing the purchase up to an aggregate of $15 million of common stock. Their ticker is ACTG. Take a look. They are not moving pre-market, so not really getting any reaction off that news. Pretty bearish on the weekly. This could be a retest of this previous breakout point around 430 to 450. If you do hold on to that area, it doesn't look too bad. Not something I would be too interested in. It is a pharma penny stock, so very risky. All right, next up we have Amazon. Amazon Counter launches in Canada, convenient package pickup option. I believe it's a pharmacy thing. I didn't look into it, but I think Amazon Counter is their like brick and mortar pharmacy. So they're launching in Canada. Let's see if Amazon is reacting to that. Probably not big news for them. No, they're not really reacting. Amazon is looking pretty decent if you can get above that 3551 level. You do have resistance around 597, and then look for 659. That would be the obvious target. These are old targets that have all been hit, so we easily could break through these into newer targets. The newest target that I would add is probably somewhere around 3713. Next up we have Apple. The iPhone and the iPad assembly was halted for several days due to supply chain constraints. Let's take a look at how they're doing. They don't seem to care. They're up a little bit pre-market. They've been ripping the past few days. Even with a nasty candle on the 6th, which, what was that, Monday, they're still ripping. So they look pretty good. Our next target is 173 on Apple. And then after that, we're looking for 177. If it breaks below 168, look for that gap fill around 165. All right, let's take a look. Next up, we have another Apple headline. Apple to introduce the second generation AR headset that's augmented reality, basically virtual reality. Introduced the second generation AR headset in 2024. So they announced that they're releasing another one of those headsets. All right, moving on to upgrades. Our first upgrade of the day is Goodyear tires. Ticker is GT. They were upgraded to a buy with a price target of 32. And it looks like they are gapping up on that news. It doesn't look too bad here. Next target on that would be 24.22, that pivot that has not been retested. You are already flipping the trail, so if you do pull back, look for support on that trail around 22. Next up, we have Rxdx. They got upgraded to a price target of 50. They are also gapping up pretty hard on that news. So they're gapping up about $6. About 10%, I'm guessing. 20% actually, massive. So if they can hold above, let's say 40, is that all-time high? That is all-time high. So this is a pretty strong breakout here. Keep an eye on this one. If they can break all-time high, let's see, take a fib here. Your next target would be 41 and then 46.60 for a big breakout. Keep an eye on that. If it breaks 40, that would be an all-time high. All right, next up we have Wtrg. They got upgraded to a target of 56. They're gapping up a little bit on that news, not too much. Is that all-time high? No, it's not. If they break this high around 51.25, could probably get like 53 out of this, 52.5. It's not a very fast mover though, so not something that you would be looking for a massive gain on this right away. Very nice trend though that's been maintaining here. Maintaining a nice trend, nice cupping pattern here into the high. Typically cupping patterns like this lead to breakouts. So this can break that 51.25. Long term, you would be looking for that COVID gap, which has not been filled, interesting enough, around $53. All right, the last upgrade we have for today is Big Commerce. They got upgraded to a target of 66, Big C, BIGC. They are still in this massive falling wedge. So this is something we've been watching for months now. We traded this way early on in the year. If this can break this weekly wedge above like 60, we're looking for that pivot around 70 and then probably around 100 as that high of the wedge. As far as today goes, small gap up on that news. First target would be that pivot around 46. Actually not too bad here holding that wedge on the bottom. All right, moving on to downgrades. We have Honeywell, HON. They're going down a little bit pre-market here. You do have a pivot supporting you around 202, right where we are. Break that pivot. Honestly, not a whole lot of support until you get back down to this gap fill, which is around 184. So break 202, look for 184. Next up, we have Kraft Heinz, KHC. They are downgraded to a target of 33, so basically right where they are. Doesn't seem like they're reacting too much to that news. They're down a little bit. You do have a small gap that it's going to fill, right around 33.60. Break that. You do have the low around 33, and then you have a pivot around 32, which would be the obvious level. All right, last up we have Stitch Fix, SFIX. We talked about this one already. It nuked on the bad earnings. They got downgraded to a target of 24. So that's actually right where it was. So it's nuking away from that level. Just keep an eye on that pivot around 13 on that. All right, that's it for the news. Let's take a look at the sector analysis. Let me also pull up my scanners while we're doing that. See if anything else is moving pre-market. All right, as far as sectors go, let's see. Almost all of them are about break even. They're slightly green, about 0.25%. No sector is red yet. The top performer is energy. They're up 0.4%. Second top performer would be industrials, up 0.3%. But every single sector is about break even. So it looks like we're going to be waiting on the open to see if anything is moving. All right, let's take a look at my scanner, see if any names that we didn't go over are moving. I don't see anything that we like to trade. Roku, let's take a look at Roku. Okay, Roku's actually moving pre-market, up about 20 points. You're still kind of in this falling wedge. You do have a nice bull div coming in here. Look at this bull div. You're gapping up off this bull div on the Momo. You're running into the trail though, so the first target would be around 240. If you can break that, probably looking at around 255, somewhere around there. What else do we have here? I think Dollar Tree is moving. Let's take a look. Just barely. Dollar Tree might go for a gap fill. Keep an eye on that level around 141. Target is moving. Let's take a look. Target's up about 2 points. Not too much. Keep an eye on that OTS trail around 251. Let's see. What else do we have here? AMGN. Let's see. Moving about $1. Not really getting any volume. If this can break out of this little double bottom here, could look for around 218. No big names on my scanners today. Seems like the market is waiting for the open to see how ES is going to react to this open. It is a little weak going into the open. Very small bull div coming in. You had a couple of really good strategy trades if you guys follow the strategy. I don't know, or I don't know if any of you guys trade pre-market. I don't trade pre-market, but if you do, you had a nice little buy here, gave you a nice scalp. You had a sell here because you had your sell signal, broke VWAP, buy signal, broke VWAP. In both cases, the signals were better if you just took the buy and sell, but you have a lower probability, right? So if you took the buy, gave you about 24 points. If you took the VWAP break, gave you about 17. The sell gave you about 10. And then about 8.25. If we can break VWAP around 695, it looks pretty good. AVGO is hitting the scanners. Let's see if it's moving. Not much, only up 1 point. Netflix just hit the scanner. Let's see. Netflix moving a little bit here, actually. Up almost 10 points. Next target on Netflix will be around 647 and then 660. As long as you hold this pivot here, it looks pretty good. Hold the pivot at 613. If you break that, probably go down to like 600, 595. But all right, guys, I'm going to call it on that. Not many things hitting my scanner. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this morning call. I will be streaming this on YouTube for the rest of the week, and then we'll think about next week what we're going to do. But for the rest of the week, we will be streaming on YouTube. So I'll see you guys tomorrow in the morning, or if you're in Discord, I'll see you guys on the trading floor right after I end the stream. But all right, guys, if you guys are on the stream, I'll catch you guys on 3 p.m. Eastern. Peace.